Welcome to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. I'm Tori Mystic, here with my dogs Lucy and Bert. Together, we're interviewing cool, creative women entrepreneurs in the pet industry. Do you dream of working alongside your dog? Then sit, stay, and listen to the latest episode to find the inspiration and resources that will help you grow your own dog-inspired business. On this episode, I'm talking with the puppy mama herself, Theresa Piasta. She's the founder of the Puppy Mama community and the author of a new book sourced from real dog mom stories alongside advice from trainers, groomers, and vets. Speaking of vets, Theresa has had a very interesting life that led her to this current career. When you listen to this episode, you'll see what I mean. We talk about the importance of creating a community around dogs and the nitty-gritty details that it took to create this new book. We also touch on Theresa's plans for her next book that will include advice on how to take your dog to more places so you rarely have to leave them behind. Before founding Puppy Mama, Theresa Piasta was a vice president at JP Morgan, spending 6 years in the investment bank and sales and trading businesses at 2 Wall Street banks. Prior to that, she served as an Army captain in a field artillery brigade. During her 14-month Iraq deployment in 2008, Theresa led a large team to defend thousands of soldiers and contractors residing on Forward Operating Base Delta near the Iranian border. She was awarded the Bronze Star Medal for her service. After the military, Theresa attended the Stanford GSB Ignite program in 2016 and started the Puppy Mama community to advocate for a more dog-friendly world and for the healing power of canine therapy. Her first book, Raising a Doodle, Heartwarming Stories from Dog Parents Around the World, is the adorable how-to guide for both new and experienced doodle parents. Theresa and her 6 siblings grew up in Sonoma County, California, and today she lives in San Francisco with her husband, their infant son, and her Cavapoo, Waffles. Hey, Theresa.
Hi. I always love to hear Waffles. It just brings me so much joy hearing her name.
Well, one of our dog park friends here, her name is Pancake. So the two of them should really get together.
I know. We've had, some come up to us like, oh, what about Pancakes? Maybe I'll name my dog Pancakes. Or my husband's nieces mentioned the name Syrup or French Toast. And I was like, that's so cute.
Aw. Can you picture a little French bulldog named French Toast?
I know, it'd be so cute. I know. When it came to naming our son, we had to be, we tried to stick to the boys' names.
Yeah, like an
not
actual
breakfast food, not breakfast
an
food.
actual real name.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
Probably a good choice. So I'm so excited to have you on the show here. Your history and just your experience going from the military to now leading a Puppy Mama community and writing a book about doodles, seems like such a huge jump. Like, do you feel like there is any kind of common thread that kind of connects it all for you?
I love that question. I am someone, I think in general, I grew up in California, and I think back to working on this book project. I taught myself InDesign in order to be able to craft the visual story to match the text in a thoughtful and creative and stylish way. I go back to my 2nd grade experience. I wanted to be a Disney cartoonist. So growing up in the North Bay area in Sonoma County, I was told, the Disney dream story of you can be whoever you want to be. And that has always been something that's stuck with me my whole life. So going into the military was something I wanted to do. I wanted to serve. But I think inside of me has always been this person who wants to advocate for change, dream big, try new things, new skills. And on the side, along the way, I have become, not just in the military, but also in banking, I see an opportunity to empower women in a variety of ways. And building the puppy mama community during my own healing journey was something that became really important to me. I saw not only from my own healing how much dogs are helping their owners or slash dog parents, but they're also bringing joy to the people around them. Through Waffles, a huge part of my healing journey was the fact that not only did she comfort me, but she got me to connect with other people again in a very joyful way at a time when there's so much negativity on social media and so many things to be upset about. And I've heard complaints across the board. I went to Wellesley College, and from that community, I hear a lot of different aspects. I'd say liberally or politically, it's on one spectrum, and then I went to the military, where I was around a lot of people that politically was on another spectrum. And I want to be somebody who brings people together despite differences, and so and find ways to empower women. And I'm so excited to have worked on a project like this. I love every single person I've met along the journey between all of my different worlds, and finding ways that bring us together is something that I felt so passionately about 3 years ago, and how amazing dogs are. No matter what political belief you have, where you're from, what religion, boy, girl, different, LGBTQ, across the board right now, dogs are just full of love and joy if you find the right match, and Waffles will say hi to everybody and bring them joy to their faces. So I think my ultimate story is, follow your passions, follow who you are, but also, for me, it's really important to find ways to bring us together instead of dividing. And I saw an opportunity that was so beautiful, and how women were connecting with each other in a very positive and joyful way.
I love that so much. That's just the best answer, because I think this community that we have around our dogs, like, they are such the great unifier. Like you said, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are, who you are, where you came from, or where you're going. If you see a dog, you're going to have an emotional reaction to it, for most people, unless you're a complete crazy person.
And just in San Francisco, we have, it's not new news. There's a lot of need to fix our homeless situation. And this past weekend, Waffles and I were going to this coffee shop, and an older man came up to us and was the sweetest to her. And Waffles gave him the biggest kiss. And I didn't know he was homeless until later. I saw him on the street, and he came up and said, "Waffles, how are you?" And their bond that grows now every time we walk by, I'm like, this little being brought me to connect with this other person who needed help and healing. And this is just one story. This just happened a couple days ago, and it's just over and over and over again. And Waffles, I call her Puppy Zero because she did this to me, and I constantly met new people in a positive, joyful way. I created an Instagram account for her 3.5 years ago, and then was inspired to connect other women who were passionate about their dogs as much as I was, for meeting them, but then also digitally. And it's the most beautiful way to connect with other people. And in our book, we talk about it. And it's a platform where people are building positive. It's not just about the dogs, I think, right now. It's more about, hey, I'm getting joy in my life, either following an adorable dog or connecting with other women who love their dogs as much as they do. And they talk about the love and appreciation and happiness, and they don't talk about the negativity going on in their lives. It's stress relief.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I think is really interesting is that, with everyone's smartphones and all their apps, and working from home as I do, and, so many other factors have made us more isolated than ever before. But you're using technology to help form community. So something that was like making people more isolated has now become a wonderful tool to create community. So tell us a little bit about like when you first started Puppy Mama with the app and just like the online component. Tell us a little bit about how that works and what it is.
Absolutely. So 2.5, 3 years ago, when I left the banking world, I went to Stanford Ignite program for entrepreneurship here in the Bay Area in Palo Alto. And I was so inspired at the time with the love that I was feeling with my Angel Pup waffles. And I found also friction at the same time of finding places that I could bring her with me. A lot's changed in 3 years in San Francisco, but I wanted to, when I was at the program, I was getting all these ideas on how to make a sophisticated app in order to build what you would think is the Yelp for dog parents, but also with a community angle to it. The reality is we are at the point we became very quickly aware after we launched the app. You could rate businesses according to a 5-paw rating, and it's still the goal that we can do that, including other community type features into it, including micro communities, but it's expensive. So 2 years ago, in order to keep Puppy Mama going, I had to temporarily pivot my time and energy as an entrepreneur and sole founder to find other ways to be creative in order to keep going. In the Bay Area, engineers who can build their own apps I would say, if you can do that, if you're a woman who has an idea and you have coding skills, I'm applauding you, because go and make things happen and build communities around them and solve issues and problems and frustrations that your community that you care about is focusing on. I have many skills. 2 years ago, I came up with an issue that I don't know coding skills. So when it came to how I looked at my next day-to-day, I try to focus on the areas that I do well in, and that's building community. I'm also a fast learner, and I do, going back to my second grade experience, I love art. So I've kind of, the past couple of years, I'm the one who's done a lot of the photography. I taught myself photography to keep the Puppy Mama brand alive and growing. I've taught myself Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, in order to build our brand marketing materials, so much so that when it came time for this book project, we needed a book cover, and we also needed a stylish layout for the book for the hundreds of photos, about 1,000 photos that were crowdsourced and brought to us that had different mood boards, different color tones, etc., different quality and color and pixels. We had to make something that was stylish and look good in print. I had to teach myself all of that, and really what I would say at this point, where the startup is, it's been a huge ROI for anyone else who's thinking about starting a business. Know what you bring to the table, what you can learn quickly, and then also know that there's going to be a lot of grit involved every day, and to keep chugging away every day and finding ways that you bring value to your organization. And ultimately, I had to pivot for the time being to build the right app for our dog parents until the community grew. And now we're at the point, which is exciting, the past year, because I've been focusing on building the community and brand. I've reached out to our ambassadors and community members for surveys to learn from them, to see what really features they care about. So the app in the future is going to include video coaching for training and how to raise a pup and whatever is best. Basically what I'm now experiencing for what is out there for raising a baby, because I'm a new human mom too. There's a lot of need out there for how to raise a happy and healthy best friend. So we want to grow into that realm, but listening to our community and what they really care about is where we're growing in the future.
I think it's just so smart, and the way that you've been able to kind of pivot, like you're not discouraged, like when things aren't working out perfectly. You're like, how can I, spend my time for the next year or whatever wisely, so that I set myself up for success when it's ready to grow the app. It's just really inspiring. But I'm curious. I know that you have a Cavapoo, who is a poodle mix. Obviously, anything that's a poo at the end is some kind of a poodle mix. But why did you decide with your book, Raising a Doodle, to focus on doodles specifically and not just puppies in general?
Well, I see the book as something, again, I got to a point where we had about 1,000 stories submitted, and each story that's submitted, as sole founder and sole person working on the startup, I'm the other person on the other end of that. And I try to tell the community so often that know that each story I care so much about. And that's what's really has fueled me and my passion to keep the grit going. It's really the amazing stories that women have been sharing. And when I started my first story about my own personal life and how Waffles at Cavapoo not just changed my life, but was a huge impact on my own health recovery journey from PTSD from the service, that I also gravitated pretty quickly to stories that were submitted by certain breeds and what was shared. And a lot of women were getting a lot of information because of all these stories with what's the breed, what did the women share, and they've turned into kind of love stories. And over time, so many women who have poodle mixed breeds, it's not just me, who's received health and healing from anxiety, depression, PTSD, infertility. In the chapter Canine Therapy, we had so much content in this book that we already are almost like midway through book number 2. We had to move a lot of the content to book number 2. But the one chapter I was so adamant not to remove from this book were 17 of the canine therapy related stories and how these poodle mixed breeds are helping women cope in a variety of health and pain. As a military female veteran, that is a very important part of my own advocacy efforts. I would love for not just female military veterans, but also male military veterans to be able to have the right dog match in their life to help them heal. And seeing how these dogs are helping women in a variety of ways has just been so inspiring. Something else that also came up is that Waffles also has quirky traits and really cute traits and mannerisms. So there's the healing side, and then the other stories that, as somebody who does have a poodle mixed breed on my end, as an entrepreneur, I also noticed that, when a woman says that her dog dances, her dog sits in a chair. All these cute little traits too, that they're more human. I saw in time just the fact that Waffles, I could relate to that person immediately on the other end. And so that helped over time a couple years ago when I thought about a book project and where I would start. And it was really because of my own personal knowledge of experience of raising a poodle mixed breed and how I could relate and hear those specific stories. But the goal is that for Frenchies, Corgis, across the board, all of them, it's clear that they all have their unique stories to share. I had to start somewhere, and knowing firsthand what it's like raising a poodle mixed breed, I know I've never been an author before. This is my first book. So I knew that it would almost be more of my blog type writing skills about my own personal experience, but interviewing others that I'd probably, with my first book, working with Audrey, I was better equipped to nail the first project that way with my own skills too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So with all the stories in the book, did you interview everybody, or did they just kind of send in their stories to you?
It was a mixture. So we had a lot of stories from women around the world and how they shared.
Okay, so another question I wanted to ask you was, while you were going through the process of this book and getting everyone's stories and just the whole publishing side of things, were there any surprises that kind of came up in this whole process?
I would say I'm not an expert with current trade policy at all, but the publishing world with the printing experience in color books today, because of different policy shifts, it's really expensive to produce a color book today. So that was something that came up. A huge goal of mine was to bring the Instagram experience into the palms of people's hands in a tangible book. That also, not just because of the printing situation with operations and logistics, there is also an issue too about CMYK printing versus RGB. It was so important. You saw some advanced reader copies, and when we were deciding we've been told that with our with those who were helping us with the book, that I so wanted to have an advanced reader copy at least to show some in color. And it literally, the copy that you saw was so important for me to see how it looked on print, because I learned purples and a couple other tones because of the change between RGB to CMYK. They don't look the same. So when people are so used to looking at their mobile phones and what a picture should look like, what it happens in print is a very different experience. So each photo in the book, to get it in print, also requires a lot of effort of Photoshop, mood board changing. It took a lot of time to bring that digital Instagram experience into a book. And that is actually something that I'm so proud of, because each page, when you flip it, the colors have to kind of match, etc. It brought back a lot of my artistic skills from my second grade experience, because it's so important to have that visual experience to not distract from the text. And to share the visual story. If someone flips through the book and just wants to look at pictures, I want them to love it just as much as someone wants rich content and how to help them raise a happy pup. They needed to complement each other. So it was a very fun but tricky project.
Well, and something that you mentioned a little bit earlier that I want to make sure that we talk about, you mentioned how there's a whole section of the book that talks about dogs who have helped women through, difficult situations, or maybe PTSD like you have, or something like that. What is the charitable component of the book? Because I know you're doing something to help people in that area as well.
Because of my own personal experience of Waffles helping me so much. And, there's a huge need there's the suicide rates among female and male veterans. Just this past year, it was updated 20 to 22 a day, just veterans. But now there's more research out there about female military veterans. Suicide rates have skyrocketed. So I personally have experienced the love and companionship and help when, having Waffles in my life, PTSD, that's a really important cause to me. And where Puppy Mama started, to be frank. So raising 5% of the net proceeds are going to be to help support the training for service dogs for military veterans in need.
I think that's just so wonderful. And the fact that it just ties in so deeply to your own personal experience, it's just, it makes so much sense, and it kind of like all ties together so well. So how the people who are listening to this, or who are curious about Puppy Mama, how can they kind of get involved with your mission?
I would love for them to follow us on Instagram. We have a lot of wonderful dogs around the world, and just know that, right now it looks probably a lot of doodles, and that's just because of this book project, but it's a community of any single person, and we don't want to exclude men too. So if you are a person who loves your dog, please follow us on Instagram. And would also love, whether you're a doodle owner or not, would love for you to check out our book. We want to be able to share the story of all dog breeds and how they're helping in a variety of ways for health, happiness, and being amazing family members. The story about the Doodle, which is unique, is how many times the dog parents shared that, they were helping the marriages. They were like their quote unquote little therapists. And we want to share the right story that fits each breed in time, but then ultimately, be that platform to provide very, very helpful information to help you raise your pup the best way possible. So we'd love for you to get involved in a variety of ways, and we do different contests on our Instagram page, but we'd love for you to join our community.
And so the second book that you're already working on, is that going to be dedicated to a specific breed, or is it going to be sort of broad?
It's called Life's Co-Pilot, and it's for all dog breeds, and tips, advice, and tricks and how to navigate world and train your pup to be ready to go with you throughout life, but then also the realities of, some things that come up in the way. For example, how do I get an Uber, et cetera, with my dog. So, tips and tricks, but then stories. But we want to be there and be the content to help you get through those obstacles.
That's very fun. Well, I love what you've done because you've combined vets, trainers, groomers, all this kind of like quote unquote professional advice, qualified advice, but also with like real dog mom advice, like how to get an Uber with your dog, because that's really important. But no vet is going to tell you how to do that.
Right. Or, flying. A section in the book, because we had too much content for raising a doodle that when it came time to look at, okay, what could go into life's co-pilot versus what is specific about the doodle breed or any breeds, which is a template that's going to be used to help us build, the other stories about the different breeds. But the reality is, if you have a dog that's under 25 pounds, or under 20 pounds, how can you train them to go on the flight with you? And what is that like? Should you try? Should you keep working with your pup if they're not ready? There's a lot of things that come up as being a dog parent, and we want to help people along that lifestyle. Because when somebody follows a famous dog on Instagram, you see them going all these places, but the reality is it didn't happen overnight. And these dogs, the more you train them, the more you work with them every day, the better you build that bond, and you're getting them to a point where they're going to be able to enjoy and go on the go with you to more places. So that's the goal with all of our books, and we want to be there for those to make it happen.
I love it. So tell everyone what is your website and how can they find you so they can get in on this?
puppymama.com. Would love for you to join us on Instagram. Puppymama.com/book is more information about the book, but it's also on Amazon as well.
Awesome. Well, Theresa, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you so much, Tori. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. You can fetch show notes at wearwagrepeat.com. If you like what you hear, please hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And until next time, we'll see you around the dog park.